There is in this movie a good movie begging to get out, begging to be released, and it just never happens. Hello again and welcome back to Mimsy Park. Yes, it has been quite a while. I basically just kind of disappeared through all of December. We won't get into why. We'll just kind of say that depression is absolutely no fun sometimes. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. Let's get into the review today, one that I think is appropriate to come back on, which is 2020's live-action remake of Disney's Mulan. If you've been watching the channel, if you've been watching this series that I do, it's not really a separate series, but if you've watched any of the other Disney live-action remakes, you can tell probably one thing, and that's that I don't like these. I don't like the live-action remakes. I won't go into it too much because I've touched base on this before in older videos on the Disney live-action remakes, but they're just A, unnecessary, and B, it's just a rebranding campaign, and it's just clear every time they release one of these movies. I am going to preface this with saying, if you've not seen my other videos and you do hear me comment on these PC messages that Disney is really trying to drive out there, you'll know from the previous videos, this is not me having an issue with these PC messages. The feminism movement, Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, all of these socio-political movements going on are extremely important and absolutely 100% do have validity. What Disney's doing is hijacking these movements, hijacking these messages to basically make a profit. And it's clear in everything because they just shoehorn these messages in, and Mulan is really no exception. Now, Mulan could have gone way off the rails with it, being the story that it is, but with it being the story that it is, you didn't need to add on top of that. It's already a movie about a woman who goes off to fight a man's war in a man's world in ancient China, and not that just ancient China was misogynistic, the ancient world was misogynistic. Hell, the present world is misogynistic. So you've already got this story overcoming all of these hurdles and all of these obstacles as a woman in ancient China. That story's already there. Instead of staying true to that, which they're always like, we want to stay true to the history, we want to stay true to culture, we want to stay true to this, we want to stay true to that. They say that, and it starts that way, and little things do stay truer to the Ballad of Mulan, but then we get this witch, who is not a character, she was a character made for this movie, and her only purpose is to drive home, is to be a female victim, because she is a villain, but it becomes very apparent throughout the movie that she is also a victim. That's her only purpose in this movie, from what I can tell. Like, I can't tell of any other reason to have her. This movie would have worked completely fine. It would have kept going if they didn't have her at all. There is in this movie a good movie begging to get out, begging to be released, and it just never happens. As a movie about the story of Mulan, you take out the witch, you take the witch out completely, and you take out this high fantasy crouching tiger, hidden dragon combat going on, which is, I don't know whose idea that was, but you take these little elements out that don't add anything to the story and don't do anything to make the movie better, and there's actually a good Mulan movie in here. As a Disney live-action remake, it's not a good live-action remake. Really, what they should have done is they should have released a Mulan story, a Mulan movie, over one of the number of production houses they could release this under. You can totally do that. They did that with A Nightmare Before Christmas. A Nightmare Before Christmas was a Touchstone movie way before it was a Disney movie. Release it under another house and then do a Mulan movie. You own the production house and the title. Just do that. Why would you not do that? Let's move on into this whole idea of chi that we have in this movie. It's stupid. I facetiously love how they try to stay true to the culture, and they try to stay true to the story, and all of this other shit that they're trying to stay true to, but everyone's speaking English. Everyone's speaking English. And there's a lot of scenes where you can tell the words, they kind of have trouble pronunciating some of the words, which is fine. I think if you're gonna sit there and go, I want to stay true to the culture, we want to make this more accurate, we want to do this, we want to do that, and then you have them all speaking English, I understand why they're speaking English, and it's because it's going to make it available to a broader audience, they think. Everything about 2020's Mulan is not 1998's Mulan. Even the scenes where they try to redo them from the original, they completely lack emotion, they lack energy. The scene where she's putting on the armor, her father's armor, in the 1998 cartoon, it's this big deal. It's your transition from Act 1 into Act 2, and her transition from not really figuring out her place and not really feeling comfortable in doing the whole traditional role. In this, it's just glossed over. It's just glossed over. She's just there. There's like she's talking with her dad. She's already there, so she's not even sneaking in. She's already there. And then she goes and gets the armor. She goes up to the armor, and then it just cuts to her in it. And that's it. And then she leaves. And that's it. And we skip over it completely. Her getting ready to go see the matchmaker. The scene with the matchmaker. All of these scenes lack substance. They all lack so much substance. Now, the movie is beautiful. It is beautiful. Some of the CGI was a little but for the most part, this movie looks amazing. The cinematography is very good. The production design is... Holy shit, is the production design good in this? I mean, just the colors and the props, the sets. She's also apparently already a martial arts master in this one. They say it's because of her chi, but again, just the whole concept of the chi in this movie is just, it's so dumb. It's so stupid. It infuriates me so much because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. You added it to just make it, basically to make it more fantasy and to make it more pleasing to the eye, and you basically just took a all over the story. The entire first part of this movie, we don't need. The parts of her as a child, it's just showing her as being rebellious, and you already know that from watching her. She's got a rebellious nature simply by wanting to not have to fit into this mold that society is pressing on her. You already get that. The movie itself is just, it's full of exposition, from the narration that pops up randomly to explain scenes that you don't need explained at all. You can see it there on screen, to these scenes like her as a kid to explain that she's rebellious. We already know she's rebellious. We already know that. Why the do you need to add, it's like 20 minutes onto this movie, maybe 15 minutes that you add onto this runtime? Again, we're coming in at like a 2-hour runtime. Like, why? As is already widely known, there's no songs. There's music in the background that plays the songs that we remember. One of my biggest pet peeves is where they will play this music that you remember from the original to hint at it, but you never really get that. And the reason that bothers me so much is because the music in these movies was part of the story. That's been a thing with Disney since its inception. Go look at their silly symphonies. The music is supposed to be part of the story. In this, it's not part of the story. It's just there to just remind you that you're watching a remake. One of my absolute favorite parts of this movie is there's this tribe, and it's the Rurons, which I will give them credit. Rorans. I'm totally slaughtering that. But basically, in this one, it's not the Huns, it's the Rorans, which is actually more true to the Ballad of Mulan. I will give credit where credit is due, and that is more true, so they did change that up. And there's this point in the movie where they have a meeting where Bora Khan, who's the leader, It's not the original guy's name, of course, because everything's got to change. They're having this meeting, and one of my favorite parts of this movie is when he motions over to this treasure as if it's a bunch of treasure. And it's basically two dressers with gold on them. It's this like comically small pile when you consider the fact that he's trying to make it sound like this is just a small portion of what we can actually get. No, it's just a small portion. It's just a small amount. Like, I know it's supposed to be a small portion, but when you say that, you say it ironically, and there's supposed to be a lot, and there's not. There's like a couple like gold water pitchers, and there's like some coins on there, but spoiler alert, no Mushu. Nope, no Mushu. Could have had Mushu. You totally could have, with the ungodly amount of CGI in there. The Phoenix that they've got, which is terrible looking, by the way. The CGI on this Phoenix is terrible. It's absolutely awful. You could have had Mushu. Eddie Murphy's still alive. I'm sure he would have loved to have redone that. No Mushu. So I knew I wasn't going to like this movie. Like I said, there is a good movie in here begging to get out. There really, really is. The acting isn't bad. The girl who plays Mulan is whatever. She's really not that great. There's no masking of her voice. When they get to the military camp, she masks it a little bit, but then throughout the rest of it, she's not masking it around the soldiers, which just drives me insane. Because it's like she already has very soft feminine features, and then she has the woman's voice, and we're supposed to believe that nobody even questions it. Nobody questions it. Everybody buys it completely, and I know it's supposed to be their characters. You should just suspend belief. What the f ever. It's stupid. It's stupid, and it's a glaring plot hole. I wouldn't call it the main battle scene, but like the big battle scene in this movie is actually pretty cool. Within reason. This is the scene, if you'll remember, from the cartoon with the avalanche. This is that scene done way worse. But let's just start with the first problem. The first problem is you've got the Roron are up on this ledge, and they're shooting down at the Chinese military, and they're sending all these catapults, and they're being looked down on in this wide open field. There's no trees, there's no bushes. And then we've got Mulan out there in the open by herself, and she's trying to figure out how to keep everybody from getting killed, how to stop the catapults from killing all the soldiers. She rides up in what I can, like, even if we weren't to go literal with the time, as in cutting from one scene to the other, to get from where she's at to all the way behind the military would take longer than the seemingly 5 minutes it takes her to do this. It also never explains how she's able to go from a wide open field where you can see everything all the way behind the military without any of them ever seeing her. But she manages to do it somehow, and her whole plan is to basically get them to shoot the catapults back towards her so that they can hit the snow, which will cause an avalanche, which is dumb, because they turn the catapults around, and then we're supposed to believe, and when they shoot this catapult, I mean, this thing goes all the way over her. It doesn't even get close. And so we're supposed to believe that these hardened soldiers who operate catapults all the time, that's their one job, is to operate a catapult. We're supposed to believe that their measurements are so off that they just shot it all the way up into the mountain. It's such an unbelievable scene, and it's again another one of those scenes that just it unfolds conveniently, and everything that happens in the scene is for the sake of convenience, so they can shoehorn in these references. Listen, if you have to shoehorn in a reference, just skip the reference. You skipped the music, you skipped Mushu, you skipped all this other shit. Quit trying to just appease people. If you're going to make a remake and you're not going to stay true to the original, just quit trying to shoehorn in aspects of the original. Now, we're not going to touch on all the issues I've had, because I'll have a heart attack. You'll be listening to me yell forever. And I've been trying to get back away from yelling about this shit, but if you really notice, the Disney live-action remakes clearly strike a nerve with me. However, the next big thing that just stuck out to me, like, what? Was when the Emperor goes off to face Boracon on his own. There is no way in all 9 gates of hell and they would have ever let the Emperor ride off to go do some one-on-one duel. It just never, ever would have happened. And of course he gets caught, and of course he gets trapped, and Mulan comes and saves the Emperor, just like she does in the cartoon. It worked in the cartoon because he breaks into the palace and kidnaps the Emperor. In this, the Emperor just rides out on his own to go do a one-on-one battle, and there's just no way that ever would have happened. It's just not believable. It's not believable, and I don't mean in the sense of like real-world believability. I mean in the sense of believability within this story. It makes zero sense. And speaking of Boracon again, his whole thing in the original was conquest and was basically going after the Chinese Empire. In this, it's just petty revenge. His brother got killed, and so he's taking revenge. And it's so indicative of how little substance all the characters in this movie really have. But all in all, I would say Mulan is worth watching because, like I said, there is a good movie in there begging to get out. They could have done this well. They actually could have done this well, but it's just, there's so many different things that just ruin it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work as a remake. It could have worked as a Mulan story. It does not work as a remake because you took out all the things that made the original one so special. You took them all out, you cast them aside, and then you gave us this steaming pile of shit that we have, which is 2020's Mulan. But I do hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you did like it, go ahead and throw me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, throw me a thumbs down. I know I'm not for everybody. I would imagine some of you are here to watch me scream and lose my mind and see if this is finally the episode where I have a heart attack. Regardless of why you're here, you should hit the subscribe button. You should do that. I'm going to try and start getting better about this. As I said before, just sometimes, maybe some of you can relate to having depression. Maybe some of you can relate to the lack of motivation that comes along with that. But I am going to do my best to stay on top of this more. I promise, I promise, I promise. With that said, guys, like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.